Hello, everyone. So today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this tape that I like so much, and I just thought I'd mention that sometimes it's the little things that make all the difference at the workbench, and this is one of those examples. I remember when I first started working with Larry Fishman in the mid-'80s, we were cross-pollinating each other's work lives like crazy from our differing points of view and experience, and he was always turning me on to something I didn't know anything about, and vice versa. So in that spirit, here we go with what is known globally as self-amalgamating tape. So to amalgamate is to make something whole or unified. And this tape, which comes in so many varieties, I was kind of surprised today when I looked it up. If you look up self-amalgamating tape, you can see that there's a jillion kinds of it, and it's used for all kinds of things. Of course, it's misapplied. People use it for plumbing repairs, which are not a permanent repair. But anyway, let's get into it. So first of all, although there are other variants, most of it is silicone rubber, and it all comes with a plastic liner on it. That's to keep it from fusing. That's how it works. It's not an adhesive tape. So you can see it doesn't stick to anything really. It doesn't feel sticky, certainly. It does stick to itself. So instead of being adhesive, it is what we call cohesive. So to activate or enliven the tape, you simply stretch it a little bit, and then it's happy to stick to itself and stay that way. Here's an air nozzle. This is the style that I like and recommend. I don't have my compressor on so we can make a film. This works when you just deform it a little bit, push it slightly sideways. It opens a valve in here. And we can see on this part, same nozzle, of course. On this part, there's some self-amalgamating tape here that I put on probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, which is still working great. And so here, let's wrap up this new nozzle with it. Again, you have to be careful to start it because it won't stick to the thing you're wrapping. But after it sticks to itself, it does a great job of staying in place. And then this is, of course, just to keep it a little bit safer for the workbench, so you don't have a piece of metal that can bang up whatever it is you're working on. So that's how it works. It just sticks to itself, and it's easy to apply, a lot of fun. And the idea of it is that it turns into one piece of rubber. And they say 24 hours, which is always amusing. How come everything takes exactly 24 hours? But they say it takes 24 hours to cure. Now, this is something I wrapped just before we started filming. So this has been like, a couple of minutes. Let me cut this off, and we'll see how this behaved. Seems pretty stuck. Again, it's not supposed to be adhesive, but okay, well, you can see it isn't really sticking so much as it is just happy to be there. Anyhow, you can see this is behaving after just a few minutes as if it's one thing. And that's the whole idea, is that it creates a single part out of this usually spiral wrapping that we do. In this case, I tried to overlap it kind of like a barber pole where there isn't, it's overlapped about half the tape width. And if you wanted to do it so that it came out smoother without features, of course, you could wrap in the S direction and then come back and wrap in the Z direction. It would kind of cancel out some of those bumps. I think you can see this is kind of a cool demonstration actually about how nicely this stuff sticks together and makes a handle. This stuff that I'm using now is a 3M product, and this is the high voltage stuff. It says 600 volts, although it says not more than 600 volts or more than 80C or 176F, which we hope everything we do is going to stay below that. Now, I went to the hardware store this morning to see what was available, and these are the ones that I was able to find at one place. These are a tapered style. Some of them are tapered in width, so that if you've ever wrapped a bicycle handlebar, a lot of them are like that. So it's thicker in the center and it tapers a little bit to the edge. I'm told that in the Air Force and aerospace, they use this stuff a lot. Often that stuff has a little line down the middle, and they actually call it centerline tape, and that's to facilitate 50% overlap when they apply it, so as to get an even layer. So let's see how this works on this funny little tool. So we'll get it to go around so it sticks to itself. Boy, this is really sticking. And then, well, in the absence of a marked center line, I'm going to just eyeball it. Perhaps not my finest work. I think you can see it's not really sticking to the aluminum handle, but it is sticking to itself very well. Kind of nice stuff. This was more expensive. You have a little chance to reposition it, but it does start sticking to itself pretty quickly. Great for building a handle of, something that you'd like to have a little cushioning for. Anyway, that's about it. So it comes in colors and different electrical properties. I've never used it for that, but it is in your hardware store. You might find it like this. This is one of the cheapest embodiments of it, and this is called splicing tape. And the key is, it should say self-fusing on it somewhere. Here's another kind that says, this is called linerless, whatever that means. Rubber splicing tape. I guess this stuff they don't think is a liner. But anyway, it needs this, or else obviously it wouldn't be, you couldn't unroll it. And here's some other brands. This is also similar to this stuff. Different brand, but it's tapered, so it's thinner at the edges, and really changes the feel of the tool. And it, like I said on this, it just keeps provides a little cushioning so the rubber doesn't, the metal part, whatever it is, doesn't beat things up. Here's something that's been in place for probably, 15 years, just trying to cover up a hose clamp, which are kind of nasty to work with. So this is just a nice way to keep this happy feeling and not hurtful. And I guess I also used it here on this knob to get a better grip because of the way I can't get my whole hand on it, to adjust the pressure if needed. It's good stuff. These were $11. This was $8.50 for 22 feet. This tapered stuff is more expensive, I guess. Not much else to it. Self-amalgamating tape. All right, so we're going to clean this up and go on to some other kind of tape. Nerd tape episode. All right. Okay, so here we have kind of a specialized tape usage. And I'll explain the problem that I was trying to solve first, and then I'll show you how I fixed it. So anyway, this is a pickguard assembly and process with this crazy knob I designed. So the knob has this beautiful rope knurl on the outside, and anybody who's ever picked up a trumpet or something like that will recognize this beautiful decorative edge effect with that. Usually they come on the valves. They put this rope knurl in there, just because, really. But for here, we're actually going to use it as an edge control. We need to be able to get our finger down there while we're playing the guitar and maybe adjust this volume control. That's what it is. And this one, I can adjust either from the top like this, or from the side from the edge like that. Okay, so that's this guy called the magic knob, and so that's the magic knob. It's a piece of aluminum that I made, and this is filled with end grain black palm, which is a really attractive, I think you'll agree, kind of interesting end grain look. Black palm is a palm tree, of course, and it's not really, I guess it's wood. I don't know. I don't know what a palm tree is. Maybe it's wood or a big grass. Anyhow, then on the underside, you can see there's this little set screw here that mounts it to the shaft of the pot. And as you can imagine, this is a 2-inch diameter, 50 millimeter wide knob hanging off this tiny little, oh gosh, 4 millimeter shaft. So in order to control the knob so that it works right, I need to make sure that the knob is stable and can't tilt or wiggle around and scrape on things. And the best way to do that is with a thrust washer. This is aluminum and this bracket is carbon fiber. And so what I've done is I've introduced a pair of Teflon thrust washers for each of these assemblies. These are washers that I make, and I'll show you how, with this little tool, a simple cookie cutter kind of tool that I made on my lathe that cuts the washer out of this Teflon tape. Okay, so when we're all done, we peel off this release paper on the back. We can. Okay. So this release paper is wax paper that I bought at the grocery store. And it works really well. Okay, well, it's being fussy for this one little bit here, but we're gonna get it. Okay, enough of that. Now, this guy has some pressure-sensitive adhesive on one side and can go down and stick to this anodized aluminum surface. And I'm going to go ahead and burnish this down nice and flat. And we do this to both sides. This surface facing this way, and then the carbon bracket gets another one facing the other way. So these Teflon, or PTFE as it's called, surfaces address each other and run with very, very little friction. It is not the lowest friction material known to us, but it's so close that we're going to call it really, really low friction. There's one thing we found out is lower friction than Teflon. Anyway, this works great. So that's the desired result. And obviously, if you start with a piece of tape like this, it's kind of hard to cut a washer out of it freehand. So we're going to use a little fixture. So this is 6/1000 of an inch thick, or what is that? About 1.130 millimeters, something like that, 135. And we'll take this off, trying not to stretch it too much. There's no liner in this. This is pure skived Teflon. And skived means it was cut with a knife. I think it comes from leatherworking. So we're going to set this down on the wax paper. That's pretty good. This is not cheap stuff. This one is made by Andrew Roberts Incorporated, and you can't buy it from them. Can't remember where I bought it, but it's called film, PTFE film tape. Maybe we can get a shot of that little printed label in there. Awfully nice stuff for keeping glue off your fixtures as well. And when we get to laying up the neck veneer, I'll show you how well that works on the fixture. Okay, so oops. All right, so now we need to punch out these little guys. And we have a block of end grain cedar that I cut on the Hammond saw. And we'll put this, we'll use this hammer as a punch. And there it is. Probably hit it a little harder than I needed to. And see, I upset the wood. Hold on, let me see if I can refine my technique here. Use a smaller hammer, might be good. Oh, that was enough. Just a little tiny tap. Anyway, there it is. You can just keep them clean till you need them, and there they are. Ready to rock and roll. All right, so this is a cute little Teflon washer. I'm not sure what else to tell you about this. I think that's about it. Good stuff. PTFE film. Okay, so now let's have a look at double-sided tapes. Tape in industry is called PSA, or pressure sensitive adhesive. It's always a way to use more words, I guess. So there's, broadly speaking, at least to my understanding, 3 kinds of this tape. Double-sided PSA. And one kind has a carrier that's cloth. And so you can see this is fiberglass cloth, which of course is super strong glass fibers. And this is sold as carpet tape, this particular one. And then here's one with nice and sticky, with a kind of a finer weave cloth, so it's kind of flatter. And I know from experience that if you want to hold a piece of wood to a piece of metal for machining or something like that, these are excellent choices because the carrier gives you a little bit of cushion and some thickness, which helps to make things work if it isn't, if things aren't perfectly flat. And, oh yeah, another one. I guess that's pretty similar to the first kind. And of course, there's innumerable varieties, that not just limited to these ones I have on my bench. But anyway, so there's double-sided tape or PSA with cloth. And then these tapes are, this one I marked no fiber just to make sure I didn't get confused. These are linerless, or in fact, there is a piece of plastic in here. So this is Scotch tape. This is the kind you can get at your grocery store. Scotch tape, just a thin plastic liner. And then here's one. Some of these don't have a plastic liner at all, and they're just adhesive. And I think this is one of those. Yeah. Oops. Okay. Yeah, so this, I don't believe, has any. Yeah, there's nothing. Oh no, there's something. Yeah, there's a piece of plastic in there. It's quite thin. I've used this tape very successfully. Sometimes if it's too thin, you can just do this to it, and then you get a double layer that has tape on both sides, so sometimes it makes it easier to handle and deal with and doubles up the layer. Okay, so these have plastic. This is not exactly linerless, but thin plastic liner. Have a look at this guy. This I think is the same brand as this. Some of these PSA things are so aggressive and resistant to heat and solvents that they're used in automobile transmissions to hold the parts that transmit power to metal castings. So this stuff, some of it is highly engineered and just amazing. Just because it's called tape doesn't mean it's a toy. Some of these things are really amazingly tough and strong. Now, for most of what we do, we'd like to be able to get it apart afterwards. Not always. But you can see it's pretty tough stuff. Anyhow, a lot of different kinds. I don't really have a recommendation. I just kind of order it from who and see what I get. And then, of course, there's foam core tape as well, which is really useful for a lot of things. Here's a kind that has kind of a squishy foam. These things age out, but anyway, there's kind of a general purpose, not too exciting material right there. But now we're going to move on to some stuff that I use and depend on in my guitars, which I'm pretty excited to show you about this stuff. Some of you may already be using this for things. So this is a high-grade foam tape. A lot of engineering went into this. This was really good at sticking stuff together. it's quite aggressive, which means it, sticks right down to the substrate, whatever it is you're using. A piece of dusty particle board. Okay. And a unprepared piece of aluminum tooling. So this is mighty. I mean, this is really stuck on there, and I haven't, if you were to put it in the vise, you could really get a bond. I mean, this is, boy, that's some stuck stuff right there. Very impressive. So I think what we just used was Scotch. This is Scotch brand. That's this stuff. It's called mounting tape or mount tape. And I have to say, although some of their other products are excellent, I did a comparison test between the Gorilla brand and the Scotch, and this was a pale second place to the Scotch stuff, so I would recommend this. Now, this tape comes, here's a 3M version. This one is clear, and I'm sure they're all a little different, chemically and whatnot. I would encourage you, if you're going to use it for anything important, to test it first. But you can see this is easy to deform and stretch in this direction, but in this direction it behaves well. I think it's the same stuff. This is the same stuff that we used first. Pretty close anyway. These are both excellent brands, the 3M and the Scotch. And I'll show you what I've used it for. Oh, here's another example. This is kind of a foam gasket kind of thing. Which is pretty aggressive, thinner. Now this stuff is about 1 millimeter thick without the liner. And it's really, as we were just saying, really dependable. This stuff is very, very strong. Now, I'll show you what I use it for. I kind of discovered this by accident and decided I was going to use it for a job that is kind of a trick, and that is to hold the pickup on the end of the neck. So what I do is I take the tape and put this pattern on there, and then carefully cut it out to the pattern. All right, and get a nice cut, and then tape is gray, which I don't want. So I just dress it up with black magic marker. Well, the tool is black, so it's a little hard to see the difference. But you can see it has a pretty nice appearance when it's all done. And there it is on the finished guitar, very securely holding the pickup in place, and it just works perfectly. So I'm able to get the tape to stick to these two ebony surfaces that I have, smooth ebony surfaces, and it just does a famous job of holding the pickup exactly where I want it. I can Well, a little tricky to get it, to land it in the right place, but once that's done, you're a hero. So that's my dive into PSA with a variety of uses around the shop. Cool stuff.